wait few minutes to from few participants. Gatry, Robert, shall we start?
Yes, I think we can start. Others will be joining us in the
Okay. So
process.
thank you. I would like to welcome all here. A very warm welcome. And we are pretty excited for this dialogue. As we were working on since a few weeks. This is our line of 6 dialogue coming from various practitioners, leaders, as well as coordinators from different countries. Let me batteries. So, so today we are gathered here for a truly significant event that dwells into a two pressing and interconnected issues like intermediate issues with respect to climate change and human rights and all several aspects that we are facing right here. So it is an honor to welcome each and every one of you to this important dialogue, important conversations. I, Robert, Gatry, and all other members were pretty excited to listen Leonida, and the shared learning that we are coming out from this dialogue will really helpful for us in coming future as equatorial voices. There are so many things happening in the background as we were set up a system that we can hear, we can place indigenous voices, those who are from downtrodden communities, because that voices are not clearly heard by the elites and those who are in power. So this is the platform we are running. As a member of Equatorial Voices, we are well aware of profound impact of climate change has on our communities, our environment, our societies, and fundamental rights of individuals. The consequences of climate change, the consequences of climate change, such as extreme weather events, rising sea levels, and disruption of ecosystems pose significant challenges to enjoyment of basic human rights. Currently, we are seeing several pictures and updates from Congo, Kenya, Uganda, and even in India. Currently, we are dealing with the 48 degrees Celsius, and the temperature is going to up and up every year by degree Celsius. And the impact of this is coming to like including rights of life, food, water, health, and shelter. We can see as a whole ecosystem that climate is impacting right now. And if we don't act now, we will never act in future. So it is very important time to discuss, to share, to act on this, to speak on this, to raise our voice on this. Then this dialogue serves as a platform for us to come together, share our experiences, and explore effective strategies to address the complex intersections between climate change and human rights. By amplifying our voices and promoting collective action, we can strive for equitable solution that protect and empower vulnerable communities most affected by the challenges. Then today, we are privileged to have esteemed speaker who have dedicated their lives for advancing the cause, and undoubtedly she inspires us and guides our discussions towards the actionable steps. And I request let's seize this opportunity to engage in meaningful conversations, exchange knowledge, and nurture solidarity within our community. Together, we can make a tangible difference in mitigating the impact of climate change on human rights and fostering sustainable and just future for all. Thank you for unwavering commitment and active participation. Your today's participation is commendable. I request Mr. Robert to come and to introduce Equatorial Voices in more detail to all the members. Thank you.
Thank you, Raul, for the introduction and the opening remarks. Members, we are honored by your presence here, and this shows the value you attribute to the urgency we need to tackle climate crisis. Equatorial Voices Group has been working alongside the Climate Dialogue Group, whereby we believe in a system of using bomb-inspired dialogue to communicate, to echo our concerns about different issues that are affecting our climate and environment. We are a team of passionate environmental climate activists, advocates, and defenders, because there are a lot of members. I know some have not yet turned up today, but a lot of members are at the forefront. Can someone mute? There's some noise in the background. So we are at the forefront of fighting against people who are encroaching on the environment, who are really creating this disaster that is taking place through deforestation, through what? So as a group of Equatorial Voices, we are basically located in the group of South. And we have members from the Asian part, India, some members are from Pakistan. We are having members in Africa here, many from Congo, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania. So we are looking to expand the Equatorial Voices group to cover a bigger area, because we believe climate is one of the most key issues if we are to think about sustainable growth. Our mission as Equatorial Voices group is to create a climate disaster-free environment for a sustainable future. And we envision a world whereby we reinstate a sustainable and conducive environment through use of conservation, resiliency, and restoration strategies. And our overarching goal is to build a network of passionate climate action advocates, activists, to share knowledge through dialoguing and to inspire communities to take effective action on the threats and respectful communication, and also mutual support and inspiration. We believe in working together as a team. We know we are located in different countries, but there is nothing as urgent as tackling climate crisis. And we believe in climate action. We believe in sharing knowledge. We believe in putting our efforts together to transform our communities. So in brief, that is our Equatorial Voices. And we've been working with the Climate Dialogue Group since last year, mid last year, and they have been supporting us technically, and we've been sharing with them a lot of this knowledge that we have, and we are trying to create a better world for all of us. In brief, that is about Equatorial Voices. Members who are present, we can share more on what Equatorial Voices is. We shall share, we shall get your emails, and we shall give you a brief or a brochure so that you are much informed about what we stand for. Thank you. I'll call on Getri to take over from here.
Thank you so much, Robert and Rahul. For Africans, we say good evening. For most Northern Americans, we say good morning. My name is Getri Agiza. I'm from western part of Kenya, and I would like to take us through the introduction. I'll probably pop up a question, and I know it has got some detailed explanation, but I will wish us to just name a thing. We are not asking on how you'll do it, but we'll request that you say your name. If a friend has allowed you to come in, you say your name, and then one climate concern you'd like to help solve in your own small way. It could be through dialogue, it could be through sharing with a friend, it could be just talking to other friends about what you think is a concern that you like to focus in 2023. So I'll start. My name's Agetria Giza, and one climate concern I have that I like to deal with in this 2023 is the major issue of planting trees, indigenous trees. And I'm focused on that. And I would like to pass it to John Ruffin. Hey there, John.
Okay, good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Getri, and good morning to Robert and Ro. Thank you very much for putting on this amazing session. I think the concern for me is just what we're having right now, which is the ability to hear and listen deeply to the other voices around the world, which is this was represented here, and what their passion is so that they can hear each other. The beauty of what Equatorial Voices has created is a partnership literally around the globe. And we're so honored to be part of this with you and to have watched this develop. But this is the kind of experience that we want as the Climate Dialogue Group to perpetuate. How many other voices need to be talking with each other? And that kind of action then can lead to what you all are doing. Thank you. I'm going to pass it on to Robert Corman.
Thank you, John. I'm grateful also for Equatorial Voices and David for bringing them to us. I'm very happy to be here. I think the key narratives that need shifting is what I'm focused on. The things that the people of the planet have bought into that are taking us in the wrong direction are the things that I'm most focused on. So that's where I put my energies. I'm very grateful to see my colleague, Leonida, being chosen by Equatorial Voices. She's a member of our board at A Growing Culture. So I'm feeling quite blessed to be in such a good cross-section of people that I care about. And so with that, I will pass it on to Nancy, who has been wonderful in helping move this all forward.
What we're doing right now is one of the things that I'm particularly focused on. And there are, even as the problems in climate get worse, there are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people all over the world stepping up, both finding solutions and finding greater care for each other and for nature. And I am moved by that every day. I'm Nancy Glock-Gernick, and I live in Santa Cruz, California, and I am privileged to be part of the Climate Dialogue Group and particularly the Equatorial Voices that is meeting today. And I'm going to turn to Kelvin.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Oh, okay. Now, mine is just to say I'm happy to be here today. And our focus generally is on basically trying to be food sufficient in terms of livestock within the Maasai community. And most of this year, we've been trying so hard to alleviate issues to do with drought. And so I'm very happy today to hear what is going to be presented by my colleague from Kenya and all of you anyways. So thank you so much. I will pass it over to Elizabeth.
Thank you, Kelvin. My name is Elizabeth Bisno. I work on the core team of Climate Dialogue. And I would say and first of all, thank you to everyone for making this happen. Thank you, Leonida. Thank you, Rahul, Robert, Getry, everyone. We are all so lucky to be part of this. I would say my biggest concern, or one of the things that I find to be a huge problem, is deforestation. And so much deforestation is for the sake of industrial agriculture. And so maybe one way that I can get involved is through supporting efforts that are part of the movement towards more regenerative agriculture. And I would also love to be able to educate children about that through doing regenerative agriculture efforts involving kids so that they also get to learn about it and learn that it is a solution and learn how much better it is for the earth than industrial agriculture. I will pass it on to Sylvia.
Good morning. It's good to be with everybody today. I am calling in from British Columbia in Canada, from the southernmost tip of Vancouver off the western shore of British Columbia. And there's really two things hand in hand. Locally, I'm really focused on increasing the neighborhood resilience, the capacity of people to work in hubs and in a village-like way across the city and across the region to be prepared for any kind of disaster. And in that sense, I'm trying to change the conversation that happens with people I know. 3 generations of my family have lost their homes to floods and been homeless for a long stretch of time as a result. And people in Canada are losing their homes to fires and other kind of extreme climate consequences. And I'm trying to interrupt and disrupt and kind of alter the conversation that a lot of people around me have that goes, well, everything is getting worse and worse and worse, and there's nothing we can do about it. So rewilding all of the areas around us, organizing on a neighborhood scale, and doing what we're doing this morning and what we're going to continue to do, to be in conversation with one another, respecting that we share the same home, that it's all the same home, one and the same home that we live on, and that what people are experiencing elsewhere should influence my action all the time, like not getting on an airplane, not doing things as well as the things that I do. I'm going to pass it to Emmeline.
Yeah, my name is Emmeline. I live in California. I want to mention encouraging governments and legislatures, both in the United States and my home state of California, to deal with it. I'm proud of what the government of California is doing about this. Just a little piece of information. One of the areas that's threatened in California is the Great Central Valley, one of the major agricultural areas of the country, which is in danger of flooding.
Emmeline, can you pass to somebody, please? You're muted. Emmeline?
Nancy.
Nancy.
I've already spoken. Thank you, Emmeline. Perhaps I'll go ahead then and call on Reed Melton.
Reed Melton.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Reed Melton from Santa Barbara, California. My experience in the world living and working in India, Pakistan, Sudan, Kenya, East Africa in general, leads me to be concerned about conversation at all levels, international, as we're doing it here, but all around policy. I think that's my major concern, how to get good information out so that political people can make the right decisions. Thank you. David.
Good morning, good evening, Jumbo, Jai Bim. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm focused on bringing everyone into the circle. I don't think anyone should have to face climate change alone. My first commitment is to increasing the sense of belonging among all my friends and all my friends who I have not met yet. And I think if we bring everyone to the table, we can solve things, or we can at least move things forward. But without having everyone at the table, there are entire communities and entire parts of the world that are left behind. And that's really what I want to prevent. I have lots of thoughts, but my thoughts aren't any better than anybody else's when it comes to dealing with climate change, except that I want us to pursue a program of radical inclusiveness. And with that, I'll press. I just see that she entered. That's a delight for me. I'm going to call on Helen Lukunze, also known as Helen Tanyinga, from the Ray Pertz Foundation in Jinja, Uganda. Hello, Helen.
Okay, guys, we're gonna go. Hello, Papa. How are you? I am so humbled to be here. Is everyone getting me?
Yes.
Hello. Yes, yes. Hello, Papa and the team. I am so delighted to be part of the Equatorial team. It's such an amazing project that I look forward to see that it's everything that we were going to discuss here today, Robert and the team can be implemented, because I wouldn't want to wish us be like Ugandans who have a lot of policies and laws that have never been implemented. So my wish today here is to see that we are into a direction that we implement what we talk here, and we come up with projects that can be one of our model projects. I'm so humbled to be here today. Thank you so much for organizing, Papa. I'm so glad you're looking so healthy. Ginger misses you a lot. Thank you so much.
Helen, you pick someone who has not spoken.
I'm not so certain who has not spoken because I came in late, but
okay.
Let me talk about Sylvia. Is Sylvia done?
Mm-hmm. She has gone.
She has gone. Oh.
Mm-hmm. How about Larissa?
Yes, Larissa, yes.
Thank you.
Larissa.
Hello, everybody. I'm very excited to be here and see the stretch of participants. I have a micro level of concern, and that's just responding to things that are right under my nose. So right at the moment, I'm involved with learning how to grow my own food and planting native trees and species in Toronto, where I live, which is very much a city of money. So, you know, trees and green growth come under the sword regularly. So that's on the micro level. But on the macro level, I am really interested in, I'm from South Africa and maintain a very strong connection with that homeland. And I am really, I want to see more connection between the ways climate catastrophe and cultural and social stories and narratives influence us globally and enable, build ways for all of us to connect around that, to recognize that, to acknowledge that, and to act from that foundation. So I'm really happy to be here today. Thank you. And to pick who's next. Robert, I pass it on to you.
I think both Roberts have gone. Unless Robert and Boise, do you like to say more?
Okay, I think I'm done, but I work in Ginger, I work in Uganda, I'm a human rights defender. So I'll pass it on to Keith.
You mean Keith Anderson?
Yes, Keith Anderson is muted.
Okay. Okay.
Hello, it is a pleasure to join all of you today. My name is Keith Anderson. I live in Southern California. I'm currently in Portugal visiting family. It really is a pleasure to be with a group of people who are concerned with the health of the earth and have donated their time and their life energy to come together and have a conversation, a dialogue, to bridge our worlds together to see how we can have an effect on this situation. Personally, my focus these days is videos, creating videos to magnify voices of people who, friends, organizations, people who are committed to putting their life energy into bringing about change. So that'll be my check-in, and I'll pass it to Anna.
Good evening from the UK. I normally live in California, but I'm back in England at the moment, near Bristol in the southwest. I've been in Wales with my family, where I was encouraged to see there's a lot of rewilding going on and tree planting, and I'm hoping to learn more about it while I'm here. I was particularly encouraged, delighted to hear about the tree planting going on in Kenya. It's an initiative that's been going on a long time, and I think probably one of the first in the world, started by very forward-thinking people. And really, we need to regenerate our earth and try and repair some of what we've lost. I don't know if we ever can, but it's important to do everything that we can to protect and cherish our planet. Now, I don't know who's here who hasn't spoken. I ought to say, as well as being really interested in climate work, I'm very interested in dialogue, which is why I tried to bring the two together a long time ago, inspired by an old scientist called David Bohm. who I worked with for a long time. So really, this has grown out of his work. Who can I pass it on to?
Howard.
Howard? Is Howard here? Good.
I'm Howard. I live in Ojai, California. I actually had to come into my work at the Krishnamurti Foundation early so that I could be on most of this meeting because I have to start work at 10:30. I facilitate dialogues for the Krishnamurti Foundation, and my focus is also on dialogue. I care about all of these challenging issues, but my central feeling is that unless we have more widespread cooperation, we're not going to be able to do anything substantial with any of the serious issues. So I feel like dialogue is the way that we can learn to listen to each other and to see that we're all in this together. So I feel that's the central need, is to have widespread cooperation by seeing we're all in this together. And I think dialogue is the way to do that. And I'll pass it along to Leoma. Scott.
I'm Leoma from Santa Cruz, California. At the moment, I'm working on the website for the Pacific Yearly Meeting. The Quakers feel that by making the big picture connections, it points the way to the practical connections on other levels so that we can turn this journey into one of spiritual connection between each other on a practical level. I'll call on, and I'm not sure I know how to say your name, but so please correct, but Thabang Ramuk Gopa.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Thabang. I'm originally from Johannesburg, South Africa, but I'm currently in Berlin, Germany. And I think one concern that I'd like to help with in 2023 in my own little way is just creating dialogues amongst people around me about our day-to-day impact on climate, from small things like food waste to larger things like the impact of fast fashion that it has on our day-to-day lives, and understanding how fast fashion works, and understanding how supporting companies that may sell cheaper clothing actually has a really bad impact on the general environment. So that's kind of what I'd like to do, just around people just around me, creating these dialogues and just sharing this information and exchanging about our day-to-day impact on the general climate. And I'm grateful to be part of the discussion, and it's been wonderful to meet all of you. And I'd like to pass it on to Sharon Sang.
Hello. My name is Sharon Sang from Kenya. Yes, and it's a pleasure to be part of this group today. So I'm a nurse by profession, currently doing my internship, but I'm also a climate activist, and I'm passionate about environmental conservation. So in my small way, I also love to engage youth and in conversations around climate preservation, as also I know that youths also need to be brought on board in owning the climate, in owning environmental conservation. So I'd love to steer more youth into actually owning this topic, and so that they can actually partake all that it takes in environmental conservation. Thank you.
Connie? Connie, are you there?
I think Rahul also hasn't gone yet.
Yeah, Rahul.
Yeah, thanks, Elizabeth Ketri. So, hello everyone. My name is Rahul Patil. I belong to central part of India. I'm development professional with 6 years of experience, including UNICEF database and other few organizations. Basically work in the domain of education, climate change, and environmental sustainability. So my real concern this year is water consumption behavior in downtrodden communities. I'm focusing on research perspective, and I would like to understand this year, at the end of this year, how communities responding their drinking water behavior in extreme summer. As I am living in very distressed and what we call drought prone area. So I'm very interested in that, exploring these things. Thank you. I would like to call, who left?
Connie.
Connie.
Sole.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I had something on the stove. I needed to run and change before something bad happened. So my name's Connie. I'm from Olympia, Washington, and I'm mostly just here to hear what's going on and what you have to say. I don't know quite what else to say. I do see a lot of changes in the climate here, and it is a big concern. I imagine it must be worse in places that are more at risk. So
we have Nicole Mwamba.
What's this?
Are you, Connie, are you finished?
Yes, I am. I don't, who hasn't spoken? I'm on an iPad, so I only see 9 and I don't remember.
There is Nicole Mwamba. I don't know if he's there. I'm preserving Leonida because she's our main speaker.
And also, I think Lisa Rivera has not spoken.
Okay.
I think they'll join and we might know each other when you're going to group discussion, but I really want to welcome all of you. Let us make this a beginning and we can dive into our main presentation. And I'll just request each of us to share our emails on the chat if you want to have a continuous conversation, because I think the Equatorial Voices, our plan is to continue deepening this discussion and making sure that it's an action-oriented and we can able to do things in our own small ways. I'll want to pass it to Rahul to introduce our guest for today.
Thank you, Getri. It was nice seeing you all here. And we are getting, we are in touch with Leonida for past couple of months. And we discussed so many things regarding the way we working and all. So we requested her to, if she has any insight to share with us, with our group. So it would be very great and fantastic idea to shared learning. So I came in contact with Leonida in just 2 or 3 months before, not more than that. So she was very active, very passionate about climate change. She is a Kenyan human rights activist working for social justice, organizing community dialogues on food and climate justice through technical and political education and with storytelling. She is an official member of civil society and indigenous people mechanism for world food security, as well as a board member of both Growing Culture and Food Cook Kenya, a feature change maker at World Pulse and regional agroecology advisor at Land is Life for East African region. And her vision is to a world where every person enjoys their right to the fullest, irrespective of social position. And we see some of her working. She was invited in several other countries in the past and in coming future. And now I would like to call, live. So this is Leonida we have, and we really happy to have her in our cohort, and we're happy to listen and learn more from her. So yeah, we'll move ahead with the presentation. Gayatri. Gayatri.
Thank you, Rahul.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rahul,
So
for
sorry, I request Leonida to take over this space, and yeah, sorry, my network is unstable. That's why I couldn't listen. Over to you, Leonida.
Thank you, Rahul, for. You can hear me? Am I audible?
Yes.
You can hear me? Okay,
Yes,
thank
very
you.
clearly.
All right. As I've been introduced, I'm Leonida, I'm from Kenya, and I'm going to be sharing with all of you what's happening in my part of the world. And of course, I'll also be sharing how we are countering corporate capture of our food system as well as our environment. I work through an organization called Haki Nawiri Afrika. Haki means justice in Kiswahili, and Nawiri means to flourish. So what we are doing is that we are creating an enabling environment for right to flourish within the African continent. Specifically on matters climate change, what we do is we create spaces for community dialogue around climate crisis, because the climate change is happening at very fast rate. The negative impacts are being felt. Like recently, we went through the worst drought in 40 years as Horn of Africa region and East Africa. Families are sleeping without food, and in the middle of this, there is inflation. Last year, but one, we had a case where a mother did not have food to cook for her children, and the children were crying. So what she did was to lit a fire, and then she put stones in a sufuria. Sufuria is a pot, and then the stones kept boiling. So to the children, they were assuming that food is getting ready, while in actual sense, there was no food for them to eat. We've had incidences where because of drought, families depend on relief food. And sometimes this relief food ends up having aflatoxin, and it becomes toxic to them, where people even die. We've had cases where, for example, with the locust invasion, farmers really lost a lot because they didn't have any mechanism of chasing away the locusts. This was something that the last time it happened in Kenya, for example, was 70 years ago. And so this is the reason why matters climate change, climate crisis. We no longer talk about climate change, now a crisis, because of the negative impact that we are seeing and the frequency as it happens. So what you're doing as an organization is to try, even in our small spaces and even in our small ways, to avert the climate crisis. And we do this through community dialogue, through learning and exchanges, through enabling people to have a different mindset. And this is done through something called tafakari. Tafakari is a Kiswahili word meaning reflection. So what we do is we come together in a roundtable discussion and we hold dialogue. And from this dialogue, we seek solutions that work for the people. And one of these solutions is through agroecology. Perhaps you can, Gayatri, you can share my screen, please. And as also part of addressing climate crisis, we encourage a lot of intergenerational learning. We have, for example, in Kenya, people who do not have they have no connection with rural areas. They were born in the city, their parents grew up in the city, their great-grandparents grew up in the city, so they don't have any form of connection. We have children, for example, when you ask them where food comes from, they'll tell you food comes from the supermarket because there is there's a high rate of supermarketization of food. And so when you go to the supermarket now, you find readily cooked food that you can just go and warm it, or you can just buy it direct from the supermarket and go and cook. And that's why now children do not even have connections with where food comes from. They'll tell you food comes from the supermarket. Are you able to put it up, please? Because I'm using my phone, not the laptop.
Yes, Leonida,
Rahul
just
got
a
it.
minute. I'm sharing. I'm sharing.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. Okay. And for example, if I'm to talk about the situation before coming to solutions of agroecology, you find that the bulk of the challenges that we are facing today are not of our own making. For example, as Kenyan people, Africa as a continent, with all the 4 countries, is contributing less than 4% to the climate crisis, to global emissions. But what do we see? We see a lot of suffering. For example, you've seen the floods that happened in the Democratic Republic of Congo. You've seen the hurricanes. You've seen extreme heat, the drought. People are losing their cattle in that. They're getting more stressed up. They're having mental health challenges because of loss of sources of livelihood. And for example, if you talk about pastoralist communities, losing cattle is not just about losing a source of livelihood. It's actually losing an identity because their culture is tied to their livestock. When you talk about indigenous people, for example, the forest dwelling.
Is my screen visible? The presentation is?
Yes, visible.
Yes. Yeah,
Yes.
because
Rahul, your screen
The
is
next
visible
slide.
and you're also co-host, so you should have complete control over it at this point.
Oh, yeah. Just let me know, Leonida, when to move the next slide. I will proceed from there. Over to you, Leonida.
Next slide, please. Next slide. Yes. As I was saying, in terms of indigenous people, when you talk about climate change, it means that access to medicinal plants becomes a hindrance, becomes a problem. Access to food also becomes a problem. And of course, we've had incidences where indigenous people are being accused of destroying ecosystems and being violently evicted from their natural habitat. The photo you're seeing up there is one of our exposure visits, where these are university students, law students, and the lady you're seeing there is 91 years old. And this is part of when I was talking about intergenerational knowledge transfer and learning. These are methods in which we encourage young people to learn about the past. In Africa, what happens to agriculture is that it has been demonized. If you ask young people, for example, in the African continent, what comes to your mind when you think about agriculture? They'll tell you, or when you think about a farmer, they'll tell you is somebody sweating in the sun, somebody wearing tattered clothes, carrying a djembe. A djembe is a hoe on their back. You know, somebody who's doing a lot of hard work and does not get anything. And so that is what we are trying to change. And we are also, through intergenerational knowledge transfer, we are changing the attitude towards processed food. And for example, the 91-year-old great-grandmother often shares with young people that she owes her length of life to the type of food that she's been consuming. She eats indigenous food, indigenous vegetables, and not processed food. Next slide, please. And this is also a way of looking at agriculture differently, because young people consume food, but many of them do not want to be farmers. And so this is part of how we try to make them look at food production differently. Just to share just a brief on IPCC report and the African continent. Of course, the latest report sounded an alarm about the continent. And the report came just before the flooding that happened in Malawi, the flooding that happened in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And of course, it's a confirmation. The aftermath was actually a confirmation of what we are seeing when we went through the report. Of course, aspects such as extreme heat was something that was being seen in different parts, for example, of Africa. Water becoming increasingly inaccessible, women having to travel longer distances to search for water. And of course, there's a linkage between gender-based violence and access to water. Many a times when women travel for long distances and come back home late, they are often questioned, they are often beaten up and accused of infidelity. And the other challenge is that women have to compete for the same water with animals. For example, in places like Lake Baringo, communities are competing for the same water with crocodiles. The lake has 15,000 crocodiles, and that is the same water that people use for domestic, the same water that livestock use. And of course, when there is a lot of rainfall, it means that people cannot go closer to the lake because of fear. And there have been incidences of people being attacked by crocodiles and even killed by crocodiles as they go to search for water or as they go to search for fish. Next slide, please. And of course, as I said before, with climate change comes a lot of anxiety and stress. Because, for example, the price of food goes up, it means that you're not sure of where your meal is going to come from. Linked with that is still the Ukrainian war, which is affecting Africa, especially in terms of importation of grains such as wheat. When the price of food goes up, it means that families have to devise ways of survival. For example, eating less food, skipping meals, or adding more water as soup, which makes their food not to have any nutrition. And of course, in all this, women, children, young people are the ones who suffer the most. And of course, when you talk about corporate capture within the African continent, we are seeing a lot of, for example, of multinational corporations that are investing in Africa. And what they're investing, for example, find that they're not investing in form of food production or a production that works in tandem with the environment. The investments that we are seeing, for example, are investments that are extractivist, investments that continue to destabilize the environment. And of course, we are seeing a lot of things, for example, natural food being replaced with synthetic food. It is common now to go and find rice that tastes like plastic. If you go to buy rice, it's very common. You can find beans that don't get well cooked, so you continue cooking until you give up on them. And of course, in all these elements of intellectual property, especially indigenous knowledge that's being captured under the name of research. And when this knowledge is taken away, the local people don't benefit from the outcome of this research. In Kenya, we are seeing a lot of corporate capture, for example, in terms of policies. Last week, there's a proposed bill that is being pushed for criminalization of use of manure. It started in 2019, but there was a public uproar on that particular bill, and it got shelved. But now it's coming back again, and that we all know that manure is the main source of soil nutrients that are being used by farmers. So of course, there's influence by multinational corporations in terms of when they criminalize what farmers are using. It means that, to me, what I think is that they're going to come up with pellets. They're going to use the same cow dung, process it into pellets, package it, and bring it back to farmers to buy. We are seeing a lot of push for agribusiness investment. And of course, with agribusiness, the land that is used is always a vast amount of land. There's a lot of artificial production methods, for example, through use of synthetic fertilizers, and the push for making profit, irrespective of whatever is being produced, whether it's healthy for the people or not. And of course, there's a lot of research that's being done under the guise of public-private partnership. And with this public-private partnership, it does not benefit the locals. What this research they end up benefiting the multinational corporations. There's push for food production without farmers. Like, for example, where they're using sensors in the name of they want to know the amount of moisture in the soil. They're using satellites and things like that. The best farming is the farming where the farmer is able to connect with the soil. When farmers connect with the soil, it's not only producing food, but it's also a form of therapy. It's a form of therapy in terms of connecting with nature. Next slide, please. And in all this, what I want to say is that we are not giving up as people, we're not giving up as Africans. There's a lot of social movements that are coming up to counter all these events as they happen. And specifically, for example, if I'm talking about, I already mentioned this, but if I'm talking about food and the nexus between food and climate within the Kenyan context, and of course in Africa, there are soaring cases of hunger, cancer cases, non-communicable diseases, the pressures and all that. The rising malnutrition, of course, and children under 5 are really affected. And of course, we have seed varieties that are disappearing at a very fast rate. And of course, in the wake of this, there is criminalization of saving of indigenous seeds. And if you're found saving indigenous seeds, they call it uncertified seed. You're liable to 2 years imprisonment or a fine of 2 million. And of course, when these punitive clauses are put in our legislation, it means that farmers are going to be locked to multinational corporations, and multinational corporations and the agrovet are going to be the stores where farmers get their food. And we all know that without food, there is no life. Next slide, please. Rahul, are you there? Next slide, please. I want to share one of the strategies that we're using, and that is agroecology. Agroecology comes from two words, agro and ecology. It's a method of food production that ensures that you take care of your environment, you ensure that there is an ecosystem balance, and you ensure that life thrives within your environment. For example, when you talk about adaptation to your local environment, it's about identifying what crops that you can grow on that particular piece of land, understanding the terrain, understanding the type of soil that is available, and utilizing. With agroecology, you don't look at profit maximization or stretching the land to the maximum. You look at planetary boundaries. You look at ensuring that you can produce, but still be able to take care of your environment. And of course, with agroecology, you look at landscape management, where you're able to understand. You look at your land, you look at the terrain, you look at is it hilly, is it flat? Where do you put for example, the terraces? How do you ensure water flows? How do you minimize water wastage, for example? Because you know that it can rain for a whole month, for instance, but then you find that after the month when it's rained, the next month people are complaining of lack of water. So with agroecology, you look at what resources are you using, how are you using them. It looks at efficient utilization of available resources. It looks at what seed varieties are workable or can work in your environment, and ensuring that these are the ones that you use. But agroecology is also about practices. It's also about science. It's also about trial and error in moving towards breeding new varieties. Next slide, please. And of course, with agroecology, there is it promotes intergenerational learning. It creates spaces where the young people can learn from the aged. It respects indigenous knowledge, because you all know that indigenous knowledge is often demonized, it's often looked down upon, and people don't respect it. But with agroecology, it brings people together and respects the knowledge that the elders have. It respects the experiences, because, for example, in agroecology, we believe that farmers are scientists and their farms are the labs that where they do a lot of practices, where they come up with a lot of things, and where they're able to prove a lot of theory. Next slide, please. Rahul, could you shift to the next slide? And of course, with agroecology, it's all about life. And when you're promoting life, you actually try to protect it. And through this, it's about you utilize biological processes as opposed to synthetic material. For example, in many parts of Africa, we use the neem tree to make organic pesticides. We use crops such as lemongrass. You grow lemongrass on your farm and it acts as insect repellent. You grow crops such as mint. The pungent smell that mint has is actually a repellent. And then, of course, with agroecology, the farmer looks at what is available before they go out there and start looking for other things. They try to use what is locally available. Next slide, please. How could you shift the next slide? And many a times, farmers are told that agroecology, they are always asked where is the evidence, but agroecology actually is a science because of interaction of plants, crops, animals within the ecosystem. And of course, with agroecology, there is the push for cooperation in working. What you're seeing in conventional agriculture, scientists sit on their own, farmers are excluded, and then there is top-down sharing of information. But in agroecology, it ensures that the voices of the farmers are heard, scientists come to the level of the farmers, and these two work together. The photos you're seeing there is International Women's Day, where seed sharing was being done, and this was happening in Baringo, it's one of the indigenous territories in Kenya. Next slide, please. And perhaps, Raul, how many minutes do I have left? When I talk about
like 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you. When I talk about beneficial interaction, as I said, with agroecology, when crops and animals are able to interact. For example, you get manure from the animals, and animals are able to get fodder from the plant. And of course, with agroecology, there's optimization of planting and weeding. You look at the timing, because when you till you land too late, it means that some of the pests are going to be thriving at that time. And so with agroecology, it's all about understanding a rhythm of how your farm works and how it should work. It's also about understanding your ecosystem and trying as much as possible to create a balance. Next slide, please. So I want just to share the remaining slides are just photos of the community engagement that we're having. For example, engaging when you have community leaders, that is the local area chief in a place called like Rift Valley region. When you have community leaders speak about agroecology, it actually plays a good role in that it makes people confirm that agroecology is really workable. Some of other engagements that we do is working with children, because as I said before, agriculture has been time and again been used in many African settings as a form of punishment. When you come to school late, you're told to go and uproot a tree stump, you're told to go and cut grass, and many young people associate agriculture with punishment. But when you're able to make children start looking at agriculture differently, start loving the process. And this is one of the schools that we're working with in a place called Machakos, which is semi-arid. One of the issues that the children were sharing was that they don't have food, they don't have enough food, they come to school hungry and things like that. So what we did is we took them through the practice of how to do carbon beds, and then they planted the vegetables. And as we speak now, they have vegetables in their school. And this is just one of the schools, and we look forward to even going to more schools. So to them, they'd never grown vegetables on the school, but now that they're seeing that this can actually work, so this is part of changing the narrative that food can be produced anywhere. Next slide, please. And of course, the photo you're seeing up is also children in a local primary school in Kenya, in Nairobi. It's called Kangemi Primary School. We also do art, make use of art and theater. For example, having competitions with children in primary schools around agroecology, where they are able to cite, for example, poetry, songs, and of course, talk about agroecology in a positive way, but also at the same time be able to practice that not only in their school setting, but also at home. So we're looking at how children can be able to adopt agroecology and also involve their parents in the process. Then, of course, we have community dialogue around seed sovereignty and health seeds. And you find that in Africa, majority of food producers are women. And so when women do not have the right information, that's where now the agrovets take advantage, and they sell their chemicals and all that to women. And many times you find that the women may not even be able to understand English, and the instructions, for example, on these packets of the pesticides and all are often in English, and some of them are even in Chinese. So the question is, if somebody does not even understand the language that's written on the packet of the pesticide that they've bought, what impact is that going to have to them? Many a times you find that they become itchy, their hands become itchy, and that's part of the reason why we are pushing for agroecology and working with women, because in Africa, women form the bulk of food producers and agricultural workers. Next slide, please. And then in terms of policy engagement, we use different spaces, for example, at national level, at regional level, and also global level. We do participate in negotiations, for example, on food and nutrition within the Committee on World Food Security, bringing the African voices to a global space. We also participate through the Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa, which is present in 50. It's Africa's largest network, present in 50 countries. And through these spaces, we engage at regional level. For example, during the push for harmonization of seed laws by the African Union, we were able to bring out, to critique the document and demand the voices of farmers and other food producers in the space. The bulk of our work is at the grassroots. The photos you're seeing are different places across Kenya. One is in Baringo, where we are doing carbon beds. It's a dry area. The next photo is Machakos, where we're having a seed sovereignty discussion. Then you're also having conversations with partners from other parts of the world coming to learn from us and creating spaces for us to share our experiences. Next slide, please. And we also take advantage of existing networks in Kenya and across the region. For example, Haki, Nawiri, Afrika, we are part of the Solidarity for Women Rights in Africa. And this network is an African-wide network pushing for women rights. And for us, within SOAR, our pillar looks at food issues around food sovereignty, where we use the space to champion for women to have access to productive resources such as land, for women to be able to produce healthy food, and of course, issues around property and inheritance rights, because you can't talk about food production without talking about land. Next slide, please. And in all this, what I want to point out is that it forms a cycle in that you bring the voices from the ground you link them up with national voices, and also you link this with global voices. These are photos of different regional spaces. One is in Benin, where there was a seed festival bringing together 25 countries. And of course, the linking food and climate change, looking at engaging the African group of negotiators to bring out climate change issues from different parts of the continent. Next slide, please. And one thing I want to point out is that it's very important to be able to build these linkages, because policies are cascaded. Policies, there's top-down approach. Policies are made at the top, and then they are forced on people. But when you look at globalization from below, where you create spaces for people to make their own decisions, where you create spaces for people to voice their issues, to also participate in their own development. What you're seeing there is young people from Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, where we're having a dialogue around agroecology and why it's important to also engage across the borders. Next slide, please. And of course, different spaces at the national level, discussions around the food manifesto, engaging government officials, participating in online dialogues, because sometimes we do self-organized dialogues where we bring together people from different parts of the world to share their experiences and also provide us with an opportunity to share our local experience. Thank you very much for the space, and I look forward to the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Leonida. This was timely and perfect, and I think as a personal level, I've enjoyed it. Rahul, are you able to stop the screen sharing? I would like to take at least 10 to 15 minutes and do reflection of what we just discussed, so that we can feel comfortable. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So I want to appreciate Leonida, and I would wish that she continues hanging on, because I'm sure most of us are curious on some of the key aspects she has mentioned. It feels home when they discuss things that are very familiar, and it also helps us know where can we put our best foot forward. And I think that's why we are here. Where do we put our best foot forward? I think we can go in, we can do reflection and discussion, and I'll leave the space quietly open. Just have some silence, and anybody who feels ready to just speak to a reflection on the discussion, you're allowed. I would encourage you to put it minimal and ensure that everybody at least says something.
Getri, may I understand clearly, this is now sharing in our whole group, and then were you still hoping to do breakout rooms as well?
Can you do breakout rooms now, so that you can manage the number?
Did you say yes to doing them now?
Yeah, breakout rooms.
Okay, I'm putting 4 in a room with 8 rooms, or do you want a smaller group?
That's good.
Okay. Can you hear me, Getri?
Maji baridi na usiendelee sana, itakuumiza. Sasa utapata unakohoa damu.
Hi, Helen. And we're back. There's only 3 of them. We're in the main session. I think everyone else just didn't. What time are we supposed to get back to the main session? Like 10?
15 minutes past. Yeah, so we have gone an extra 4 minutes.
Okay. Well, maybe the time zones are confusing people.
How do I tell them to come back?
Oh, good question. Are
Do
you?
I have powers?
I think Rahul is co-host, or at least one of the co-hosts.
This is taking more time than it. Breakout rooms.
Yeah, and there's never
Close
enough
all
time for
rooms.
dialogue.
I've instructed to close all rooms. I hope people come back.
You have a button that can do that?
Yeah. We'll close in the next 15 seconds, a minute. Yeah, I hope I'm doing the right thing though.
Yeah.
I can see Connie is here, so we are
Hi,
back.
Connie. Hi. Oh, we're breaking out again.
Now we are
Are we
close.
We're breaking in. We're getting back to the we're getting back to the main session.
Ah,
Oh,
okay.
thank you. Yeah, here people coming.
Good.
Hi,
Thank
everyone.
you, Elizabeth.
Oh, I didn't do anything.
You encouraged me to fumble around. I think friends will be back in the next 10 seconds. So. Perfect.
Well, we must have left our room a bit early. We started with only 2 of us, and then we were 4.
I like the smaller rooms. I mean, a lot of group classes are good for conducive to conversation, but I especially think the small ones are really effective. That is a very key.
I disagree.
Elizabeth,
actually.
what size, when you say small, are you thinking 2 or 3? Is there a preference between 2 or 3, or smaller still? I mean, bigger still. What were you thinking of with small?
I don't know. Well, Anna, you were going to say something. What were you going to say?
Well, I was saying, actually, I disagree, because I think we're quite skillful at talking in small groups, but we need to develop the skill of talking in big groups, being able to hear each other. And it's more productive in the long run, rather than the small groups which break us up.
And can I grab your attention, please?
Yes.
Friends, welcome back. And I've seen Leonida back. So our next session will be question and answers. And I'm handing over to Robert, who will be handling it with Leonida. If you have any question or anything you like an explanation, but I really appreciate the breakout session because I think it has given us more time to just explore more on the topic. Karibu, Robert.
David Albert's got his hand up.
So Leonida,
Yes.
thank you for that wonderful presentation. I was particularly struck by your mention of the criminalization of manure.
Yes.
And you said that probably legislation had been introduced in Kenya in 2019, and it was defeated. So I'd like to know a little bit more about what steps were taken, if any, to defeat it, or was it just disagreements at the top about whether that was a good move, or the money had not exchanged hands properly in order to pass it? And that's kind of what I assume. And you're saying that it's coming back now. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, it was in 2019 where there was the push for criminalization. That was the time it was introduced, a bill was introduced in terms of criminalization of the use of manure. They called it the livestock bill. And basically it was outlawing farmers from using manure. And there was an uproar in the country because many farmers depend on manure as their fertilizer to make their crops, their soil healthy. And so there was a lot of mobilization by civil society organizations, and so this bill did not see the light of the day. And so in 2019, up to date, there was nothing, no discussions around that bill. But now it has been sneaked back, and there was a newspaper publication about the introduction of that particular bill. And in addition to that, of course, there is organizations that are pushing for the repeal of the punitive clauses within our Crops Act and our Seed Act, which criminalize the sale of selling and exchanging of indigenous seeds. They label them as uncertified seed. And of course, you also have other legislations, for example, on potatoes, where you're given, there's an amount of, in terms of kilograms that you're supposed to carry in terms of the potatoes. There are also, there was also a time when they were introducing a bill on bees, where like if you own a beehive, you're supposed to have a registration certificate. And in Kenya, what we see is that the situation is that areas which are marginalized, for example, in the north, we find or semi-arid areas, that's where many of the communities practice beekeeping. So there was this uproar because they already marginalized communities, and then if you put them, you force them to be registered, you force them to have licenses. For you to have, they were saying that for you to have a beehive, you must have licenses that must be registered. And of course, you know that these licenses are going to be paid for year after, it's every year. So it's an annually renewed license. And so the question is, if you are an indigenous person in a marginalized community, you don't even have food to survive in the first place. So where are you going to be getting money to be licensed, to pay for license annually? And then of course there's nobody who's regulating the amount of money that is for licenses. The government can just wake up one day and say we're increasing it from this amount to this amount, even triple. So those were some of the issues that were being brought up. So it's about raising the consciousness of the people and putting across a lot of demonstrations, because what happened, for example, in the anti-GMO, where there was a push to lift the genetically modified organisms ban, there was a nationwide uproar, demonstrations and petitions, and of course also using the court, and this really helped. And so what I want to say is that there's need for nationwide mobilization, but also building solidarity across the borders with different countries would really help to put a pressure on the government in terms of these punitive clauses and punitive legislation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leonida, for the great presentation and for the great response to that. We have a hand from Nancy. Then after Nancy, we shall have Larissa. Yes, Nancy.
This is Ray Glock-Grunak, Nancy's husband. If I understand, and I, like David Albert, was very much struck and horrified by your comments about the criminalization of the use of fertilizers. I mean, not of manure. And I'm assuming that the primary purpose of that law is to try compelling the purchase of commercial fertilizers. It strikes me, if I understood your agroecology points correctly, that the use of manure not only acts as a available fertilizer, but likewise, and perhaps equally importantly, acts as a retardant of evaporation of water, that it helps to contain the water within the soil. And in a drought condition, such as Kenya and many other areas of the world, this is another facet. So from the standpoint of political strategies, strikes me that we must bring forth not only the obvious economic and social inequality, the equity issues of denying starving people and penurious people to be able to grow their own food with their own fertilizer sources, but from the standpoint of not only those particular people, but of the resources of the whole region to be able to save their water. We must protect every conceivable means of keeping water within the soil and within for human uses and other biological uses of other species, not to have it dissipated so that corporate profits can just be increased. So what I'm suggesting is that part of how we can do this is to somehow combine those environmental political forces, worldwide included, that are interested in water conservation with those political and economic forces that are operating on the equity appeal and the equity mandate. And I would like to have any of your reactions or remarks on these observations or remarks, and also whether or not I understood correctly the role of manure in this agricultural dynamic.
What I want to say is that in relation to that, it all boils down to corporate capture of our food systems and our environment, because the multinational corporation, of course, they know that there is a lot of money in agriculture, because, for example, Africa has 330 million smallholder farmers. If, for example, each farmer was giving out $1, that would be $330 million in one day. So they all know that there is money in agriculture, and that's why now they're pushing for all these legislation, because the same policymakers, their mothers and great-grandparents were using the same organic fertilizer. You are using cow dung as manure, but then they were saving seeds and exchanging seeds, but now you're finding that they are putting money in front of people instead of being conscious about their citizens. All their interest is profit, and that's why now they're coming up with the legislations that criminalize, and when these legislations criminalize age-old traditions of the African people, means that we are going to be dependent on the agrovet, and this agrovet, what they produce does not come from Africa. All these are imported. So it means that we are going to increase the market share of the transnational corporations in the agro and chemical industry. And I think what can really work is solidarity, bringing different voices together. We were just exploring how we can document experiences of communities that are negatively impacted by the GMOs, and bring that, use that, make that into clips and show that to the Kenyan and African population, so that they can really know that GMO is a challenge and it has negative implications. And of course, bringing alternative narratives that, for example, agroecology is workable, it's cheap, and it is actually helping the environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Leonida. You are really.
Yeah.
I think poor network. Robert, go ahead. Oh, we have Larissa. Larissa, Robert, can you?
Thank you.
Go ahead, Larissa.
Hi, thank you. Leonida, I just wanted, first of all, to say thank you for your brilliant presentation and slides. I learned so much from them, and I'm glad we're going to have them to look at and think about more. So I wanted to ask whether, I find your approach, your multi-dimensional, multi-level approach of doing your projects at different levels, different communities, different priorities, so interesting. And I wondered if you have connections further south where you're, sharing or exporting that kind of approach?
Thank you for the question. What we do is we've started something called North-South dialogue with some friends from the global North. And so what we do is we normally utilize different self-organized spaces as spaces for sharing. And through this, we bring different voices. I think you saw some of the slides, in some of the slides, so dialogues around food justice, but then voices from different countries. That's part of how we are able to share the knowledge that we have. And we also utilize like international events and use that as a space for popular mobilization. For example, the committee on status of women, we had a side event where we are talking about how technology can be used in advancing agroecology through online dialogues and practical experience sharing and perhaps making of videos. We also get sometimes invitations to share experiences through Twitter, organized Twitter spaces, and these are also platforms for continued sharing. But of course, we are open to further collaboration and further sharing. And of course, we welcome all of you to come to Kenya and see what you're doing in practice. We are working, right now we have one of the farms which has transitioned completely to agroecology, and we use that as a space to confirm that agroecology really works. And this is a semi-arid region of Kenya in a place called Machakos. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Robert Coman.
Thank you. Great job, Leonida. Remember, you did such a similar great job when you spoke to the journalists from across the world prior to COP27. And I just wanted to suggest, and I wanted to get your take on it, that what really industrial agriculture is doing is they're saying fundamentally that they're going to outlaw eating unless you grow using industrial agriculture, because that's what it fundamentally amounts to. And in terms of Ray's point about water, industrial agriculture kills soils. And if you could talk to that, because killing the soil releases carbon and accounts for 1/3 of climate change. So that brings us all back to these, very key issues. And, how does an organization like A Growing Culture, in your mind, help get these messages out to deal with these, the communication and the global dialogue that's necessary? And AGC put out an article today that I'm going to put in the link, which really it goes ironically to almost all of your points, and it was in our Substack, Leonida. So I'm putting that in the link right now. But thank you. I'll stop there.
Okay, one way through which AGC can work is, of course, creating spaces for North-South dialogue. Because, for example, in Africa, what comes from the continent that is through the media is always about the conflict, the problems that you are facing, the malnutrition and all that. Good things happening in the continent are never brought to the attention of the global North. And I think this is one space that A Growing Culture can use to dismantle the narrative that Africa is, or the global South are continents of suffering. And the other thing is through creating political debate, creating spaces. For example, having side events during major events. For instance, if COP28 is coming, AGC could have a side event when COP28 is happening and bring out all these different voices from across the world that are able to challenge the existing narrative, and also looking at perhaps creating spaces for exchange learning, not only online, but also physical exchange learning. Like yesterday, we had, the day before yesterday, we had two people coming from Canada, and we met through the Cities Power. I know you remember Cities Power. That's where we had the first conversation. And they came all the way from Canada to Machakos just to see what is it that we've been doing on the ground. So such opportunities really help to open people's minds to what's happening. And of course, also linking, for example, with young people across borders in these exchanges can really help to dismantle the existing narratives about food production in the continent, but also looking, it can be an opportunity for exploring the different tastes of food. I presume that Africa, we have more natural stuff than what you have in that part of the world. Yeah, so I think those are some of the spaces. And of course, the use of social media, for example, you remember the Cities Power campaign. It had a lot of media coverage, and after that, there was a lot of dialogue, bilateral sharing of information and exchanges. I think those are some of the key things that AGC would be could be looking at, and of course also documenting, creating spaces where you can be able to document the on the ground stories, stories of resilience, stories of change as they happen in different parts of the world, and collecting all this in one space that people can come and interact with. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, Leonida. Members, I think time is rushing. I would request Elizabeth to come up, and after John will go last.
Okay.
Yes, Elizabeth.
Many questions, but I will just choose the one about what do you think is the most effective? What do you think most effectively moves people to engage in environmental action? The people who you're most used to working with in your region? Is it the sense that the pastoralists have that they're losing their identity? Is it a different feeling that people are getting? Is it fear of the unknown of what might happen if these climate change effects continue to happen? What is it that most moves people toward action, that really gets them to realize how urgent this is and gets them to do things?
Thank you for the question. In responding to that, there are multiple things that are making people to react right now, because as I said in the presentation, we find that the last time we had desert locusts in Kenya was 70 years ago. And this was in 2021, we had desert locust infestation. And this was something that was happening for the first time to many of the people in Kenya and across different parts of Africa. And of course, another thing we are seeing, the weather changes are becoming more extreme, because in the past we had a system that was developed, like farmers knew that in this month the rain is coming, we are tilling the land, the next month we are doing ABCD, like their life was systematic. But now they are, you can till your land today and even wait for 4 months for the next drop of rain. We have places in Kenya where it's not rained for 2 years and 3 years or something like that, and people are existing in such places. So these are wake-up calls that something needs to be done, and it needs to be done now. If you look at a country like DRC, or if you look at what was happening in Malawi and the hurricanes and all that, and the countries like Mozambique, what Mozambicans are saying is that rocks were bursting and water was coming from underground, and people didn't know where that water was coming from. And to date, those people have not received any aid, So those are some of the things that really tells you that it's about time that we changed and we responded to what's happening. And especially if you talk to elderly people, they'll tell you that one of them was telling us that climate change is like a devil, something that you don't even understand, that's creating a lot of havoc, a lot of uncertainties. So the drastic nature of the changes is actually a wake-up call in terms of we need to do something about it, and we need to do something now. And of course, this is also linked to the loss of the biodiversity loss. A lot of food that we used to have, varieties of food that we used to have, are becoming extinct because of climate change, and of course overuse of chemicals and our soil becoming denatured. And so this is a wake-up call that we are going to face extinction if we don't do something to reverse the climate crisis. Thank you.
Thank you, Leonida. I think the last hand, John, Please.
All right, I'll make it short. Thank you, Leonida, so much for this illuminating presentation for all of us. It's been powerful. There are so many questions, aren't there, that we could continue on. I just want to acknowledge the amazing effort and coordination that you've undertaken in your area and reaching out into other countries, countries, but particularly the nature that communication really is the heart of what you're doing as well. These efforts wouldn't happen if you hadn't engaged in dialogue with people and continued, particularly struck by the co-generation, the intergenerational efforts with students and with youth who are needing to have food to eat to go to school. I guess my lasting question, and there's not a quick answer to this, is, but from and I'm also so impressed that you're fighting back for the corporate capture, and you're demonstrating the strength in Africa to do this. And so, not that Global North is looking at Global South as not powerful enough, but how do we communicate? How do we continue to have this interaction with you? That what can we bring in terms of the voices that need to be heard here, and maybe voices that we can bring to you? And maybe that's a rhetorical question. And let me just say before I end on that, I just want to acknowledge David Albert, without whom none of us would be together, quite frankly. He was the one who introduced us to, if you will, the coordinators, and the coordinators have generated this amazing Equatorial Voices group and brought you to us. But in any event, enough said for me, but if you can tell us, where do we go from here? What do we need to understand? What do we bring to you? And thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you for that. There are several initiatives, for example, that you can come on board. One, as I said before, is the aspect, this needs to be not just a conversation that we are ending today. This ought to be a periodic conversation, and we need to keep not only having 28 people join us, but we need to have as many as 100 people from all over the world and join us. And of course, perhaps if you can have a schedule of conversations on different topical issues, such that people know that on such and such a date we're having this conversation, that will be really helpful. And the other thing you could do is help us build connections across different parts of the world in terms of to enable the exchange of information. But also we are looking at resources, because as I said, you've seen different communities with different challenges. The indigenous people's issues are not the same as the other issues, for example. And when you talk about food, the food is linked to so many injustices. I showed about a lack of food in the education system and what implications it has on children, for instance. And of course, the funding aspect is a challenge. As I said before, our organization is still new. Sometimes you write proposals, there's no response, and so of course we need finances and technical resources to be able to reach different communities, to be able to do the trainings, to be able to bring communities together across different issues. And of course, we're also looking at technical support in terms of value addition. I can be growing maize, but after grounding it into flour, I don't have the technical know-how to be able to process it into something else. I'm growing guavas, for instance. How do I turn that into jelly for sale, apart from just selling it as guavas, which is going to be very cheap? So we also look at technology support, for example, in terms of technology, different expertise that can be able to come and work with us, help us to continue to advance the course to agroecology, not only in Kenya, but across different parts of Africa. Elements such as water, how to be able to save water, the technology to have boreholes in different communities. Without water, we cannot produce food, and that is one of the main challenges in different communities that we work with. Thank you.
Thank you, Leonida.
You can link us up with students. We also work with young people, university students. That can be an opportunity for cross-learning between different continents, which is very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leonida, for the responses. It has been a great presentation and very powerful. It has been really very rich and informative. And we look forward for further engagement so that we continue to raise awareness, but also inform the world about what we can do about the climate injustices that are taking place. I call upon Nancy to take charge from here as we look at closing this session. Thank you, everybody, for coming through.
Thank you so very much, Leonida. I have learned an enormous amount today. I want to do two things. I want to make some closing remarks. Before I do, though, I would like you all to notice that on June the 6th, Rahul and Getri and Robert will be the featured on the Deep Transformation Network in the US, being interviewed by Jeremy Lent, an author here who has a huge following. Deep Transformation Network has over 3,000 members, about half American and half from elsewhere in the world, including other voices. And we're very, very excited that this interview will occur. And it is one more example of the ways that we can be sharing with each other more and more fully. Which brings me to, this is a global problem. And we've typically think of, because it's a global problem, it ends up being government to government to government and government agreements. But we, the people, speaking directly to each other, connecting our communities across continents, coming to know each other as brothers and sisters. It's no longer headlines. And with Via Campesina and growing culture, there are over 200 million farmers, small farmers, and farm workers already connected and organizing. If we can connect that to the urban concerns and the way we in the West we get hung up in this part of the world. It's too frightening to talk about. So it's not that we don't care, it's we can't imagine what we can do. We feel very powerless in the face of corporations. But when I think of us coming together in this way, we together are vastly more powerful than the corporations. We can reverse these things. And what I've gotten out of what you had to say today, Leonida, is a very clear sense of direction. It's not enough, just too important as it is to act in the ways that are most effective, that are going to take us to a world that's livable, where our soil is alive again. And we are able both to make sure we all are fed, but that we know each other, we can bring out the best in each other. So I'm really grateful for you being here today. I look forward to much more. And I am very grateful that the Equatorial Voices group is now well launched, and that we can continue to help each other, both with the communications, the people to people. And for myself, my background is also in working with college students, and there's an enormous force there. We are busy creating climate action courses here in the US, bring them into our lower division courses, also in our professional level courses. All the professions need to be rethinking what they are actually about, so they become part of the solution instead of part of the problem. So as we are creating these courses, I'm looking to, can we be working closely with Kenya? Can in our courses, can our students, can our assignments include talking directly to each other and an orderly, systematic exposure, not only to the problems, but to the solutions that are emerging and the kinds of changes in leadership. And so our democracy becomes much more person to person. those are the, not just dreams, those are the strategies. And I am deeply grateful because right now, today's meeting, you, Leonida, you've put a face to that strategy, and I feel blessed. Thank you all today. I guess I'm closing this out.
Give it to Raul.
Equatorial Voices will continue to have these kinds of presentations and dialogues. They will grow larger. Friends will bring friends. Networks will bring networks. The Deep Transformation Network is already, most of the members, I said 3,000, but most of those people are very active already in climate and other organizations. So the networking, I think, can take off all the more quickly. Getri, I heard you voice. Should I turn this back to you now?
To Rahul.
To Rahul. Thank you, Rahul.
Thank you, Nancy, for your kind support and the encouragement. And as we draw this enlightening dialogue to a close, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to Leonida Odongo for sharing her invaluable insights on the intersection of agroecology, climate crisis adaptation, and importance of dismantling corporate capture in our food as well as in climate systems. Right. So the profound message of let Thai food, the medicine, resonate deeply within us, and investing planetary health and challenges simply of corporate influence on our food and climate system is paramount for a just and sustainable future. She was so deepened into the dialogue, and she shared a meaningful information that we will not find anywhere across the all top level corporate places. So I thank her from bottom of my heart, from bottom of EVG and CDG. I would also like to extend my sincere appreciation to Getri, Nancy, Robert, and the entire team of EVG and CDG for their unwavering support in organizing this dialogue. Their dedication and hard work have made this event possible, enabling to us to working closer at a single platform is initially a big challenge because we were not connected, but CDG came in front of us and put together us in a single bound and explore a topic that shape our collective journey. And furthermore, I'm thrilled to announce the recent launch of, as already we are going to express ourselves in coming 6th June, and we as a EVG and CDG are thrilled to announce our recent launch Equatorial Voices website. It's equatorialvoices.earth. It is now in just preparing phase, not fully constructed. We are working on that, and it's for you, it's for us, and it's for all the Equatorial and those who are concerned about the issues and networking. There are a lot more coming on the website. So it is a platform, will serve a hub of information, resources, and collaboration. We invite each and every one of you to explore the website and engage with the communities. Together we can foster mutual cooperation, amplify our voices, and drive meaningful change in the realm of climate change and human rights. In closing, let us carry the knowledge and inspiration gained from today's dialogue forward. May we continue to work tirelessly to dismantle corporate capture, or we can say those who are in dominant structure as we are living under the beneath. So as a champion and agroecology, and protect the rights of all being affected by climate change. Our collective efforts have the power to shape a more just, sustainable, and equitable world. Thank you once again for your active participation, and let us look forward to a future filled with shared learning, collaboration, and impactful actions. With warm regards from AVG and CDG. Thank you so much.
Thank you so. I think guests can leave at their own pleasure.
Thank you, everyone, and bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Leonida. Hope to see you again physically.
Of course. All right.
Okay. Robert, thank you for coming.
Bye.
Morris Onyango, karibu.
I wouldn't.
Okay, bye-bye, Robert. Nancy, what's the plan? Are we in a meeting with Rahul and Robert?
That's what I was just thinking. I had been going to end it, and then I thought, well, if I keep it open, we can have a conversation. I noticed that William Sano just now showed up. So I admitted him. So we are now 8 of us still here. We have Rahul, Robert, Emmeline and Leoma from my Friends in Unity with Nature committee of my meeting, Anna, of course, from our climate dialogue group, and now William. So we could, if we want to, if we have the energy. I know I'm totally revved up at this point. That was so exciting. So I wouldn't mind debriefing for a few minutes right now if you're all up for that, because I'm too excited to stop anyhow. But it's my morning and it's your evening. So Getri, do you want to lead us in a bit of debrief here?
Rahul, are you in for debrief? Robert? William, karibu. I think we can quickly just check in on how it went. I think this is the first presentation we are doing as Equatorial Voices. But I really want to appreciate, and I think Rahul and Robert will agree with me, I really want to appreciate Nancy. You did work harder than even some of us to make this happen. You took it up.
Yes, I worked. I had the joy of being part of a wonderful team that will go on being a team and get that much stronger. But there's no way I worked harder. You guys, you put an enormous amount of work into this, especially Rahul, in relationship to working very closely with Leonida, bringing together all the information, making the poster possible, did a wonderful job today, Rahul. One of the things I really value in a group is the voice that can, like, you become the storyteller. You connect all the pieces and you keep bringing us back to a sense of there's a theme here. There's an underlying impetus. And at the end, your naming of our aspirations and the validation of our aspirations. This is not just wishful thinking. This is not us just having hopes. This is us creating a new reality. And you named that so beautifully at the end. And I know the amount of work, Getri and Robert, all the conversations you've had, creating Equatorial Voices, naming it, and then planning a really, really well-designed session and structure today. And I will say, I managed to get to the breakout rooms, kind of worked. It was brand new. I've never hosted a large group before. So I'll take credit for that. Thank you. But as to the rest, you guys have been stunning. And last thing I'll say is, I think you nailed it. I think people seeing that and saying, wow, is this what the Equatorial Voices group is about? Boy, did you do that well. We're going to be attracting more and more people at a deeper and deeper level. I do not doubt that for a moment. And I'm going to proudly show it off to everybody I know. Okay, I'm done with my comments, Gitri.
Thank you, Nancy. Anne, you have something? Emmeline.
Is Emily speaking?
It's perfect. Said it perfectly, Guthrie. Not everybody does. So how can we access the recording?
Good question. I think we have your email. Did you write the email on the chat?
Yes, I did. I hope I got it. But yes.
Yeah, because I'll give Rahul the emails and he'll be sharing the recording with Nancy that are our experts on IT.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I just want to say this is interesting for me because I live in the small city of Watsonville, which is part of an important agricultural region between Pajaro Valley and the Salinas Valley. It's and two people from my meeting, Live Oak meeting, are agricultural experts. So I see a fertile connection also with Live Oak meeting.
If I could also note about Emmeline. Emmeline is this area's representative to the Friends World
Committee for Consultation.
FWCC.
Oh,
and so
FWCC.
she has ongoing connections with that part of our faith tradition and that work. And the Pajaro Valley that she just named, this is a huge, people don't think of it, but this is a huge agricultural area with tens of thousands of farmers, many of them not legal immigrants who work the fields in the heat and have very, very little support. And a few weeks ago, our little area, the one that Emmeline's talking about, was in the headlines of every paper in the United States because the dikes broke, the floods came, they washed out the homes of the farm workers and immigrants and so forth. So we position, I'm saying we right now, us white Northerners, us people living here, we tend to position ourselves as somehow distant from and above these things. Those are problems in the rest of the world. We're not vulnerable, we're Americans. But oh my God, within just the past 6 weeks, 1 mile from me, the pier that has been there forever, it's a defining pier in our area. The ocean came in and tore it down, and the floods came in where Emmeline lives. And I didn't get a chance to say, it was the one other thing I meant to say, but I will on other occasions. The depth, when I say turning to the leadership in Africa to help lead us home, that I mean that from the bottom of my heart. You guys are way ahead of us in facing these issues courageously and resourcefully.
Nancy, and you had your hand up?
Yes, I was going to thank you for a really excellent presentation. I'm blown away by Leonida. Unfortunately, I was interrupted. I had some other business So I'll be really glad to see the recording, because I couldn't follow all of what she was saying. Fortunately, Robert Corman in my little group told me what I'd missed, some of what I'd missed. And I was both silenced and horrified and depressed, and then later inspired. I mean, overall inspired that people, actually, I'm really glad that I've been involved with something like this, with dialogue, that can bring people together, because this is such an important thing, to be able to talk together, listen to each other, hear each other's experiences. So I'm really grateful for that. Thank you, Raoul, for your presentation. Thank you, all of you who had such a big part. Getri, Robert, thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you for your kind appreciation.
Robert, I can see your hand up.
So, can we quickly reflect on the things that we missed during our presentation? Not presentation, to the entire session. Like we missed debriefing of our breakout sessions, right? Because we are choked up with the timing that not allowed us to reflect by the group summaries that we have in breakout sessions. So we need to think for that in the next. And yeah, because I didn't expect 26 members will attend this dialogue. I was expecting only 15 or 16, but I'm overwhelmed to see these responses, and everyone is stayed. No one is left in the meeting. So I think it's commendable that we organize our first dialogue, not first, but with the strategies. So Getri, Nancy, and Robert, I'm missing Robert here.
He's here.
So yeah.
I think
Elizabeth
Rahul,
is, yeah. Yes, Getri. Go ahead.
Leona is raising her hand up.
Yeah, I just have to go to another commitment, but I just wanted to say that it was a fantastic job and an incredible speaker. Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you, Leoma.
And have a
I'm
good
sure
day.
I will see your faces again on Zoom.
Okay, see you then.
Definitely. See you. Bye. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
And say thank you to.
Thank you, everyone.
I have to say goodbye. I have to go now.
It was wonderful
Anna.
being with you today, Anna. Bye-bye.
And thank you for being there. Bye-bye. Blessings.
Blessings to you too. You've done a wonderful thing. Look forward to more.
Look forward to seeing again.
Hard to beat what you've done today, though. Really excellent. Love
Thank
you
you.
all. Bye-bye.
Love you too. Thank you. Rahul, I think we did well being the first, I'll call it the first presentation.
Yes.
We were able to keep time, although we anticipated, as you said, we did not expect to be over 15. I wasn't expecting to be over 15. And so our time location was actually limited to a very small number. But again, even after the introduction, people kept tripling in. So the timing for the introduction was kind of short. I don't know about if the question was relevant. I think there the three of you might tell me. But I like your thoughts on discussion after the reflection, the discussion in groups, breakout session, people coming back and reporting, needed to give at least 10 minutes on that. And as I said, we are learning. So next time will be much better than this. But I'm glad even the minutes we went beyond, people still kept waiting, as if they're waiting for something new to happen again. So I really appreciate their patience. And thank you, Robert. Despite the disappointment with network, Rahul, I could see you struggling, but at least I felt we played as a team, Nancy. I felt it feels like we have met and we have worked together before today. And I appreciate that.
I have to admit that it is part of my assumption about life that we actually have other lives, and that we came into this world at this time partly to be together and to work together. I had a very powerful vision of that about 30 years ago. Someday when there's more time, I will tell you more about that story. But whatever may be the truth of that, in the heart, it does feel that way. And when I say it is a blessing, I mean that quite literally. I want to comment on our self-assessment now. Yes, we will learn more and we will get better, but I think that the fundamental issue we're up against, I honestly do not think we could have done much better today with respect to the issues you were raising, because the underlying problem is people, with rare exception, will not stay on a Zoom call, nor should they, more than 2 hours. When you have 20 or 25 people, then we have to make really tough choices about how to foster and support the different ways of people interacting. Each of them was really important. To change it would mean giving up. We would have to give up something that went well today to do more of, or something else better. The only other option I can think of truly is to step back and say, what are these different pieces? Are there other ways of taking care of those pieces? And let me be concrete. For example, the introductions of people, by the time each of 25 people speaks even 2 minutes, that is almost an hour. And that's allowing 10 minutes to get up and going and have the introductions and the instructions. That's a full hour right there. Now, we had 25 today. It would not surprise me that the next event this group does will have 100 people there. And the reason is you did a really good job. There are people there who heard that and will bring, I could have brought another 10 people. And I was going to send announcements and their friends, and I'd say how wonderful you are. People would make every effort to be here. So they'd show up. Sylvia, Holland, and Michelle are going to introduce you through Jeremy Lin to several hundred people in another 10 days. People will go and see the recording. They'll say, oh my God, that's amazing. There's so much to learn. This is a good place to learn it. So the question is, some organizations I've been involved with end up creating a half an hour, say, advance event for newcomers. Deep Transformation Network, I haven't done this yet. By the way, they really want us to be members. I haven't done what I'm about to say, but if we do it, become members, there's a whole little thing they have you go through, with videos from Jeremy and stuff. You get an introduction before you even show up to their first event. The breakout rooms, I wasn't in them. I was really struggling to just get people into them. But I'm confident, and you will know better than I, they always feel way too short. You feel like you're just starting to say hello to these other really interesting people to talk about really interesting things. And even just saying, who are you? Well, what are you doing? Oh, I like that. I want to know more about it. Could we help? Could we work together? Bang, you're out, you know? And then, as you said, the not just Q&A to Leonida, but if we were to get into a whole group dialogue and really hear each other and make more sense of it and start building energy around, wow, everyone there is feeling, oh my God, this is so amazing. The problems are so real, but the solutions are so real. And the power we could bring if we really could come together. Those big corporations, those corrupt governments wouldn't have a chance. We're over 250 million people around the world who are well-informed or becoming well-informed or can be, and who can come to trust each other. But that kind of immersion, you know, shows up. How much time do we spend with it? So the only possibility, frankly, I can think of is thinking through those, what are the desirable kinds of connections with each other and with knowledge and with action, is to have different kinds of events that build on each other. And because they're recorded, people can go back on their own time. And of course, each of us, if we do this work, are insanely busy. So, but that's the only I can come up with, not right away, but it is not anything you guys did wrong today. It's just a matter of deciding what the priorities are and what has to be left off or done in a different way at a different time. I've spoken way too long, sorry.
Robert.
Sorry, the network has always been disturbing me, but I would love to appreciate everyone for your contributions. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Raul. And thank you, Getri. Without this teamwork, we wouldn't have been this successful. I call it a success, just like what Getri said. I also didn't expect more than 15. Yeah, because at some point we were, many voices had lost ground. They had lost, I don't know. If you remember the last two dialogues we had, the numbers were really down at some point. So I think it has been a good start. It has given us a glimpse of hope. I only pray and I suggest that we do more planning. Yeah, hope if we had entered the meeting at least 10 minutes earlier, maybe it would have been better in some small aspects. But I would also love to encourage us that introduction, especially for new members, is really important. When you give an ear to someone to introduce themselves, you valued them. So that's why Getri was a bit concerned about time. But since most of the members were new to us, it was important to listen to them, to understand where they come from. Then I think it is also important for us as a team now to start planning ahead. Who will come next? Who will come after that? And also, we would also love to, if it is possible, we need also to start debriefing our presenters. I know Leonida has really done a great job, but not everyone is a great presenter. So we need to have them prepare in time and have sessions with them to practice, to give them more encouragement, more advice, so that by the time they present, they are more grounded, because everyone has different strengths and weaknesses. So I think we need to look at that. But I'm really grateful, Dancer. I'm really grateful, Raul. I'm really grateful, Getri. I'm optimistic of the future of EVG. Thank you. That is my feedback for today.
Raul?
Can I come in? So, whatever happens today, I'm very happy with that, and I'm really optimistic to see. I didn't expect the way we facilitate and the way we manage all the people. It's commendable. Kudos to all of us. And all the thanks to add 10 members. All the thanks goes to Nancy and team because I tried pulling out few people from here, but failed. It's okay. It happens. So coming to our business, we have a website with us. So in coming days or week, I will be working on that to design. We need to have sittings together. Okay. And Elizabeth is asking for a session with me. I don't know for what, but I am going to orient her on Canva, like how to make designs that. So I want all of you, like Nancy, if you are interested, Robert and Getry. So it will not take more than 1 hour to orient you on the website. It's very easy to make all these posters. You can do a very in a very short time, not a big thing that we need to have. So I want you to learn that, and I will take 1 hour session. So what's your thought on that, Getry, Robert and Nancy? Is that fine?
I'm in agreement. I think it's fine with me.
I very
Yeah.
much want to do it. And I know for myself, on timing, that I want to aim for 1 hour and people can then leave, but where possible, have the leeway of a last half hour after the 1 hour that is more relaxed, where it can spill over, we can ask more questions. And so nobody has to be there for 90 minutes. They're done after 1 hour. But the Zoom is available for another half hour for those who want it. At least I'm saying that about your instructional hour, Rahul. It may be a thought for some other things that we do. In concrete terms, if I may, I would like you planned out very carefully for today who would go in what order. It was on a chat message in my WhatsApp. And I didn't think, I wasn't in a position to bring it up when I needed it. So I was winging it and regretting that it wasn't either in the chat or that I hadn't thought ahead of time to put it on my computer where it would be in front of me and I could see it. I do agree that us introducing ourselves to each other, as this is a new organization, and the whole point is communication with, not the whole point, one of the two main points, 3. Communication with each other, that takes time. Knowledge sharing, we could maybe do slightly less and more focused with very strong links. Once we get, kind of get them excited about it, then have a link where they can go deeper. And then the action part that we can hint at, we get them all excited, and then we have a follow-up where some further more action-oriented things could happen. So all 3 of those things are present, but the focus is being with each other as the primary, if I'm understanding, you guys correct me, if the primary distinctive offering of EVG are the connections with people, but then having right at the ready, very high quality knowledge and action. Robert has gone. I agreed with his criticisms.
So I think, Nancy, are you done?
My only other question, just to note, Sylvia wants to put the recording from today into the Deep Transformation Network resources. And Rahul, I'm assuming that kind of thing is going to get onto the website as soon as possible. That's part of what you were talking about. And I really am looking forward to learning Canva from you.
I think I like Rahul,
Yeah.
there is a speed need of doing the website feeding so that we only have a week to get ourselves to the 6th day. And as you have seen today, people might refer to the website, so we need to have something there.
So yeah,
We still have
yes, Kate,
Go ahead,
go ahead,
Ray.
please.
I just wanted to say things that I look on my diary, the to-do list. We have the filling in of the website information and make sure that it's moving. And then we have the debriefing. I think the 4 of us, we have to debrief with the Nancy, you, me, and Robert on the presentation for the 6th to just make sure that we are clear again, so that you're able to work as a team. And then number 3, there was an issue that was raised by David Albert. No, I think it was Elizabeth who raised the issue about Isaac. And then there was a request from Haman in Congo about fundraising. And then David felt the Equatorial Voices have to come up on ways they want to best respond to issues. If it's a fundraising, how do we do it in a one umbrella so that we help these people instead of individuals asking money from people? So I think this is something we need to discuss. And because it has already gotten out, on email, we need to deal with it as up, because it's now in people's minds. And you saw, I think it was Philip or who? No, it was David Blakes, who was already calculating if each person gives $177. And that was just one request. What about the other requests, like what Leonida is bringing up, which might be small requests, but they're very, very important. So I think for us, we need to have a meeting on logistics and how to go about that. So I think we have a lot to do. We have very limited time. With the website, we need to do it before June. June.
The commitment that I made with respect to DTN for the website was that by the end of the first weekend of June, which is a little bit longer, by the end of the first weekend of June, it could be announced as launched. That was in the context of DTN. Obviously, if it can be done sooner, it should be. And I'm not jumping. I don't want to contradict what you're saying, Getri, but if we have it done by that time, by the end of that weekend, then it's ready for June the 6th at least. Is that reasonable, or should we be trying to do it? Obviously, the sooner the better, but should we be setting an earlier hard deadline for ourselves?
Yeah, when do you think you can do this, Rahul? You're in the middle of everything as a chairman. I like the time planning, a schedule makes us moving.
A work plan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. This presentation is, I might say, unplanned, because we haven't have a specific meeting for this particular presentation for Leonidas. And we need to be really curious and alert about the activities that are happening over the emails, like the funding and all patterns. Because once you quote an amount in public, everyone eyes on there. So, and my